stressful fields yourself. So if you could share a little bit about that as well, because I know that when I read a little bit about your bio, and like I said, we'll definitely explore it in a more extensive interview later. But I do know that you had actually been involved in some stressful work yourself, and this is kind of what led you into getting into helium.
Yeah, a lot of people have stressful jobs, and I spent 25 years as a reporter, a television reporter. Covered a lot of trauma. You chase ambulances, rapes, murders, homicides. You have to interview parents who've lost children. We went in with the trauma teams and the aftermath of the tsunami in Sri Lanka and Indonesia, and ultimately that media diet that I had chosen to consume made me sick and developed an inability to sleep, which, quickly leads to anxiety, panic attacks, and things that are really not good for your body. And so I had to change my media diet. And that's one of the reasons why we created Helium. It's positive fiber. It's positive nutrition. There is something called digital nutrition. And, especially in the world right now, what we're consuming in our social media feeds and on the news is anxiety provoking. And so if we're not balancing it with some, virtual nature, if you can't experience real nature, then that can impact your mental well-being. And so helium is just that drugless, non-harmful tool that you can go to and get some virtual peace whenever you want it.
Yeah, because I'm imagining a lot of people have probably been in need of your services lately. Because I know that there's been a lot of talk about how a lot of folks are paying attention to the social media feeds out there, whether that's Facebook, whether that's Twitter, whether that's a number of other things. And a lot of times we're feeling like we're just overwhelmed with all the news that we're getting from these sources. I mean, I love that I also come out of the media field as well, having been a journalist for a couple of weeklies, as well as definitely in the radio field, and now doing this streaming podcast kind of stuff. But definitely sometimes you feel like you're getting almost too much intake of the news. So I'd love to hear from both of you your thoughts on that, because I know that definitely we've had somebody that's currently in 1600 and on his way out next week that seemed to have had an obsession with what was going on with his Twitter feed and everything. But I don't think he was the only one. A number of folks seem to have that kind of attitude. So it seems like we've become so much of a society of social media. And I'm wondering how that's impacting our mental health and our emotional health.
Yeah, I can take that one, and then Raman, feel free to jump in as well. This is the mental health emergency. In the greater pandemic, calls to mental health hotlines have doubled. Chronic stress, even before the pandemic, was a cause of 60% of all illness and disease is caused by stress. And so you compound that stress with the job uncertainty, the uncertainty of I'm working remotely, are my kids going to school, I'm having to homeschool my children. Think about all of the layers upon layers upon layers of stress that have been piled on. And you can see how there is, in the aftermath of COVID, going to be and is right now a mental health emergency. And so helium's being deployed not only to the front lines for nurses for compassion fatigue, but for moms and dads and regular consumers who are experiencing those many layers and not able to mentally or physically cope anymore.
Yeah, I just add that, media literacy is one of the key things in our education system that is an absolute imperative. I didn't take my first media studies class until my senior year in high school, when I realized that so much of what we consume in two dimensions has an impact on the way we think about ourselves. And, to become aware of that is key in being able to make choices that are liberating, and that, you bring it into your awareness that, like, yo, is this something that I should be consuming? Is this something that's making my life better? I'm born in the 80s. So like, I remember what, y'all, I'm sure I remember what it was like before the internet, and like how you had to, enjoy your time and spend it and everything. Whereas this generation is in a very different reality. So it's interesting to me to see how we're using sort of the technology to try to get it back to our organic experiences. And some people, agree. There's, some people agree with that. Some people disagree. Like some people are like, yo, unplug from your damn device, for at least this amount of time during the day so that you don't become, this cyborg human kind of thing. So I can understand that, especially in education. I was really big about, not depending on virtual education, like, because a lot of schools were starting to experiment with, computer learning and things like that, even before the pandemic. And then, so I was kind of like standing out against that, being like, yo, we need arts, we need organic interaction. It's that relationship, that personal presence that makes a difference when you're educating. And then the pandemic hit. So even, myself having been in the schools and being forced to go virtual, it's been kind of a trip. But at the same time, it's like if everybody's being forced to go virtual, then you need something creative and something that even that much more. Because if you're just forcing kids, if math class is boring in person and now you're on a computer, like it's 10 times as disengaging. And so you need something creative to hold the attention, to keep people together if you're still going to try to get information across. But I feel the homeschool thing. I got a 3-year-old daughter. And when the pandemic hit, my family runs a preschool, run a creative arts preschool for 20 years. And we were forced to get creative on that. And so we created a children's program that was for the students that could no longer come in, but still allowed us to get sort of that foundational lessons across that are so important for every child to be in touch with, like emotions and imagination and things like that. So, you adapt. This whole thing has caused us to either sink or swim. And I'm glad I'm a creative because we are used to being able to adapt to, surprising circumstances.
Oh yeah, definitely. That adaptation, that's something I know a lot of people have been talking about, is how a lot of us are doing that fancy word of pivoting and doing all kinds of pivot because of the pandemic, forcing us to pivot and all of that. It sounds like that's what you've been doing, Sarah. And I know that one of the things that our folks at our network talk about is the fact that they feel that we're using 18th century values in terms of our education system and in terms of the way we're educating for a 21st century world. And it sounds like you're coming up with a 21st century solution, Sarah. So would you agree with Kim Calhoun and Nick Palveda, who are two of our founders of the International Broadcast Media, that we seem to have not grown enough in terms of developing our education? They would actually argue that we need to have more fiscal literacy. We need to definitely be supportive of the arts and a number of other things that they complained about. And I actually kind of agree with them, but I'd love to hear your thoughts, Sarah.
Yeah, I love how Raman called it a media literacy, because that is so true. We do see ourselves in media, and not all media is bad for you. You need media to provide you information so that you know who to vote for, who to vote against. That you're safe from a tornado. That that maybe there's a child molester who lives next door to you. You need that information to keep you safe. And so I'm not of the ilk saying unplug all of your social media accounts. Not at all. In some instances, it provides some very important information. But it's like anything else. It's like a diet. You eat too much candy, and it's going to make you sick. And you consume too much of the anxiety provoking images, rhetoric. I mean, it's really ugly out there, and you immerse yourself in that ugliness, and you just don't feel good. And so we really need to take a pause and do some self checks of, okay, what have I been feeding my eyes and my heart and my mind over the last few weeks? And do I need to temper that with some visuals that, if I can't get those visuals in my own self because of, travel is limited, maybe it's something like helium in virtual reality or augmented reality that I can go back to nature and feel like I'm there, even though I'm only in my living room.
Yep. And I've been we had Amy Peck on one of my shows Monday, and she's in that same space of virtual reality and augmented reality. I think her company is called Endeavor or something like that. But she was talking about how a lot of times we're even using these kind of things within the concert world and in the sports world, she was actually of the feeling that we may not be going back to the normal old-fashioned concerts where you might have a auditorium of say 1,000, 2,000 seats, but it might be a mixture of both the standard performance, but also some augmented reality and some virtual reality. So I was wondering, Ramon, as a performer, what are your thoughts about that? And then I'd love to hear from Sarah if you think that that is the direction that we're moving in, where it's going to be more of kind of a hybrid version, kind of like what we're seeing in our education fields.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when the whole pandemic hit, some folks in our network in Hip Hop Congress were able to pivot really quick. We had a shout out to Mike Molda. He was a show promoter, festival promoter, who actually also happened to work for Zoom. And so he knew the technology to be able to throw the first virtual festivals. And so the network was a part of that, and it required him not only putting together the festival like you normally would, but also educating individually each artist how to utilize their home camera and their interfaces so that you can get the best quality performance on the virtual platform. And I know he's continuing to do that into this year. It was called Past the Stream Festival. So that's something to look out for. We were some of the first people to really start messing with that. And that was kind of an each one, teach one kind of thing. I'm also part of another show called Live at the Dragon, which was the same thing in providing artists. It required a degree of education, and not everybody was willing to adapt and learn how do I do a virtual performance from my home? But those of us that did were able to create a kind of that organic feeling space of just sharing time and being authentic as artists. So I agree that it's really all about how you use the technology that's going to, enhance or progress your life or get you stuck. So,
Yeah, definitely. What are your thoughts on that, Sarah? And I did also acknowledge, because I know that you can't stay with us but so long, because you were actually having a family member that was going through a major surgery. So I did want to wish her well, and I hope that the surgery went well. I believe she was having knee operation, and I believe that was your mom, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's my mom actually, and she just texted me and said she's doing well, but I'm ending so that I'm able to go and if not see her, at least FaceTime with her due to the COVID restrictions. So thank you for that. And I'll just weigh in on that and then duck out. I do think it's going to be a hybrid as far as real and virtual worlds. And there's value in that, right? You can sell virtual seats. And what this technology of virtual and augmented reality is doing is reducing the physical space between us. In a safe way, specifically as it relates to COVID and hygiene protocols. It's giving you access, and it's also selling a bunch of front row seats, right? No longer do you only have to have one physical seat. You can be anywhere inside a virtual world. And Mark, I wish you best of luck, Raman. It was great to meet you as well. My apologies that I have to duck out.
No, I know you got to bounce. I knew I only had you for a short amount of time, and I do appreciate you giving me that time. And like I said, I will try to reschedule you to come back on. One of the things that I do with all my guests, and I do the same with Ramon, but I try to get everybody to give a thought of positivity or something that they would like to share with our global community. So as you walk out the door and everything, I would love to hear whatever positive message that you would like to share with our global community, because international broadcast media is heard at various countries, not just here in the United States, but I know we're heard in Australia, South Africa, Nigeria, and a number of other places around the world. So I always like to give people a chance to share their message of positivity.
Absolutely. And I'll just leave these parting words with, this is the Stress Olympics, and not everyone has trained for it. So we need to give ourselves grace, and we need to allow ourselves to recognize that we do have control in the midst of all of this uncertainty with our health, with our jobs, with our family situations. And we need to remind ourselves that our thoughts do have power to control things, not only in the virtual world, but the real world as well.
Well, I greatly appreciate you. And like I said, I know Ramon does as well. And like I said, I will definitely be reaching out to you, and hopefully we'll get you back on a more extensive interview. But I definitely wanted to at least give people a taste of what Helium was all about. And you definitely provided that. So I appreciate you for coming on the online dinner party.
Thank you so much. And Ramon,
nice to meet you.
Too. My best to all you and your listeners. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Yep. And we definitely wish her mom much health and all of that. Like I said, I think it was knee surgery that she was having. So definitely need to have folks have these, whenever they have these health procedures, whatever it is, whether it's minor or major, I'm always got the thoughts of trying to support them in whatever they are going through, because we know that a lot of folks are going through a lot of things with the pandemic, but a lot of it's also impacting regular day-to-day kind of operations and things of that nature. I know that I've got some friends that have actually had to not have the surgeries they wanted because of being put kind of on the back burner because of what's going on with the pandemic and everything. So we do know that it's impacting the health profession in a number of ways. So that's just the way that it is going and everything. So Ramon, definitely you had mentioned it earlier. When did you first break into the music business? Were you the kid that was always going to be into rap and hip hop, or did you discover this later in life, or did you think that this was something that you're going to do from the time that you were like a baby coming out of your mother's womb?
Man, the second I heard my first rap tape, I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, this was my passion. I love rhyming. I love writing, and combining those two things was actually one of my first passions. In fact, I would say I first started writing rhymes in 5th grade, and it was a way for me to stay engaged in school. So I had hip hop was coming out, all through the 80s and everything. And I remember asking my history teacher at this school that I was at, kind of an alternative kind of school. And I asked if I could write my history report as a rap. And she was like, wow, that's a really interesting idea. Sure, go ahead. And it gave me an opportunity to not only learn the material, but then get that performance bug and that writing bug, out and feed that. And so that kept me also engaged in the learning process. So I think that really informed why I do what I do today, because I discovered music and rap as a way to engage information and really just get a love for it. I'm really I'm a sponge for information and connecting dots and things like that. And I think that's something that being a language artist, it's a fascinating world to look at it creatively. So I try to help kids, find that engagement in their own learnings as well. But yeah, I've been passionate about spitting rhymes for a long time.
And one of the things I love about rhymes is I'm actually a big fan of some of the old legends. Like I'm a big Gil Scott-Heron fan, and he was talking about the revolution not being televised a long time ago. And actually, I guess it is being televised now and everything. But he was talking about songs like that, and he was talking about B-Movie, where he was talking about Reagan and a number of other great things of that nature. And of course, The Last Poets were some folks that I definitely have a great deal of admiration for, as do I have for like the some of the early hip hop artists, whether that's the Sugar Hill Gang or whether that's Arrested Development or some of the other great artists that have been out there. But who are some of the people that influenced you, and how important do you think it is? Because I've always thought, I'm actually, my musical background is jazz and blues. My folks started a jazz station when I was a teenager, and I'm now well into my late 50s and everything. But when they started that, I got into blues and jazz. But to me, blues and hip hop are very much connected, because they're very much about telling the story of the world. So telling both the emotions of what we go through, whether that's relationships, whether that's family, whether that's also the news of the day. Because I think that there have been a number of great blues songs that have told about what's going on. I think about Billie Holiday, who's known as both a jazz and a blues artist, and her song Strange Fruit, which is about the lynchings and everything along those lines. But I was just wondering, how important is it for you as an artist to use your platform to tell the stories of what's going on in our world, to kind of like highlight some of the things that are happening?
Man, it's such a deep question, because for me personally, if you can't tell, I'm of a mixed race, right? So my dad is Black, my mom is white, Jewish, and when you talk about these cultures of hip hop and jazz and the blues, these come from the Black experience in America, and that's important for all Americans to understand. Not because of skin color or whatever, but the fact of human resilience to be experiencing a world and a society that is trying to limit you, is trying to manipulate you, and the human spirit that creates these things that are outside of the expectation of what humans are capable of, is uniquely connected to the Black experience in America. And so I believe that everybody, whatever color you are, can learn so much about human resilience by understanding how Black people have responded to these oppressive forces, which really oppress us all. It's in different ways, though. I think that's one of the tricky things about living in our society. Again, why I say media literacy is so important is that most people don't realize that there is an agenda that has been around since the founding of our country that is imparted on young people, on young minds, before we're ever able enough to know how to question it. And by the time you maybe do get learned enough to say, hey, wait a second, like this is just one side of the story, right. It kind of forces you to buy into that culture, to buy into putting things like profit and money and material gain over, family and community. And these are things that people who are oppressed in society have had to rely on because they're not given those certain privileges to play with. And so that cultural difference, I believe, is really the root of us finding ourselves, finding truth in a world now today where it's like, what can you trust? What information can you trust? Is it fake? Is it real? Like all of this stuff. So today's generation is really like kind of at a tough time because, it's like, what do you believe? You can't just take everything that sounds good as realness. You actually have to apply these ideas in life and see, does this create more harmony in my life, or is this creating disharmony? And I think that's the key part. And music really does help you navigate that, that world, that realm. So I really kind of use music as kind of like my barometer for myself on how I'm feeling. And then I learn about it when I share it with other people and say like, okay, how does this hit people? Do I get a positive response from it? Do I get a negative response for it? Why? One of the key things that I learned from my dad being a musician was, he told me that we don't pay enough attention to sound. Well, we're a very sight heavy culture, right? We're constantly being bombarded, kind of to Sarah's point, we're constantly being bombarded with visuals, and what visuals do is it helps us differentiate the things around us, right? We see that's a different color than that. You got depth, it separates our experience in our field, whereas sound actually does the opposite. Sound has the power to unify our consciousness. And when you think about the power of music, how it brings people together, it makes people move in unison. That's a very powerful thing to harmonize material matter and humans as part of that, and like you can see these awesome like experiments on YouTube, where they actually do like sound vibrations and it forms these geometric shapes. And so, that to me is everybody's superpower. If we were to really focus on the effect that the sounds that we make have on our environment, then we can get a lot of information just from our organic experience that is kind of tailor-made for whatever it is that you're trying to learn about yourself and your role in the world. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And one of the things that I've really been fascinated by is a lot of times you'll hear people talk about like even the differences that we're going through, and whether it's Republican, Democrat, whether it's white, black, whether it's whatever the differences that we've got, whether it's gay, straight, whatever, that when it comes to a concert, most people don't care. It's like kind of like sports and music is the place where the people, they're there for that music that they enjoy, whatever that music style is and everything. And a lot of times they could care less that it's a black person next to them, an Asian person next to them, a gay person, straight. They're just there to enjoy the music, and the music is kind of the unifying force. I would argue that sports is the same way. You might be against one team or the other, but you're kind of in that battle with the common goal of rooting for that one opponent or against that one opponent. But for the most part, it also is very much of a unifying factor where you don't care necessarily what people's differences are. And I was wondering your thoughts on that as well.
Well, I would probably differentiate sports from music just because sports is kind of a visual activity. You kind of got to see something to really see it, to know what's going on, unless, you listen to the radio or whatnot. But, I would say, yeah, I mean, like music, is really, it's just an auditory experience that has that power without even really needing visuals. And I know, like, it's fun. It's funny, like, like sports is interesting. I played sports in high school. I'm competitive martial artist my whole life, and so there's definitely something valuable to getting to being physical. Where I think like where sports can even be used to manipulate some people is it like makes it replaces the benefit of actually engaging in physical activity, which I think is highly beneficial and gives people that same rush to make them feel like they're in that competitive place with being able to sit on their couch and everything. So it's like not to rain on any sports fans parades, but it's like I think like it can't be a full replacement to actually that physical exercise, even though it kind of does that in your brain. I would want my daughter to engage in sports just as much as she enjoys watching them. I love watching sports, by the way. I mean, just from that same sort of competitive nature. But yeah, you could also see how sports can be manipulated, right? Like people died over sports, and it's almost like it's like back in the day, you used to have the Roman Empire. People would go and see people kill each other, and it's like people could still be influenced in that way, so some people might take it a little far, but if the difference between what's real and is not. I love healthy competition.
Oh yeah, healthy competition is real good and everything. One of the other things that I've talked about, and I've really noticed it, I've noticed it happening for several generations now, but definitely it happened, I would argue, back in the 80s when I was in school, and when it's happening in the 2000s, and I would even argue the 2020s, is we're starting to see more blending music. Like definitely you are consider yourself a hip hop artist, but I'm seeing a lot of people that are blending different styles of music. Like they might be incorporating the sounds of Asia. I've got a good friend of mine who actually is a big K-pop fan, and that's that whole Korean pop sound. And I've got another friend that's very much into reggae, and another good friend that actually does a show with us here. It's very much into funk music. So it seems to me that I remember that in college, I thought that the music would start to blend, and it would get to the point where you might not even be able to differentiate so much a person's musical style as just call them a musician. I think there was a famous jazz artist that said something along those lines, that he would rather just be called a good musician, didn't necessarily want to be called either a jazz or a blues musician or anything along those lines. But what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that we are moving more and more where people are incorporating all styles of music into what they're doing?
Man, I'm personally an artist that loves to do that. I love to take what people think is hip hop, and hip hop, I love it because it does sample from so many different types of music. But even further than that, I like to genre bend, I guess, if you will. The first piece that got me international recognition was actually a piece that was featured in the film that I mentioned, The Beat. But it actually came out of an inspiration for something I wrote for my grandmother, who was my first musical teacher, and she was a classical pianist. When I fell in love with rap and hip hop, she didn't have the ear that was attuned to it. So I kind of wanted to see if I could write a song that she would like, a rap song. And so I figured logically, I'm thinking, okay, she likes classical music, and if I just put a rap over something that she already likes, like how can she refuse that if I'm speaking about something that she can relate to? And so I took it's a piece by Rachmaninoff, Sergei Rachmaninoff, the Russian composer. Was her favorite composer. I took his Prelude in G minor, and I started writing a rap to the sheet music about how hip hop can be regarded as just as much of a high art form as classical music or even jazz. And we know that jazz had to go through that same sort of testing period where it wasn't seen as legitimate art and then finally was accepted. I wanted to do the same thing with hip hop. When I met Brandon in college and we agreed to collaborate on this film, he actually independently had this idea where he's like, I wonder if the character that you're playing, I had this idea that he was sitting in a bus stop with his friend and they're playing classical music over the speaker. And his friend is like, why do they play this music in the hood? Like, people don't appreciate it. This is art. And then I respond like, what you saying? You saying hip hop isn't art? Like, let me show you. And then my character starts freestyling to the music. So when he had that idea, I had this other piece that was already in the works. And so we just blended it together. And that became a song called This Isn't Art. And it's all about the artistic merits of hip hop, and it's written not like a chopped up sample. It's literally follows the entire piece from beginning to end. And that particular song not only was featured in that movie, It won the Lennon Award in the International John Lennon Songwriting Contest in 2014, and that was a total genre blend. And actually, it inspired a jazz musician named John Lindberg, who had seen the film. This is kind of a funny story. He was watching TV with his son, and he's like a staunch jazz conservative, and he was basically arguing with his son Raphael, like, yo, rap isn't art. Like, I'm a jazz musician. Like, we do so much complex things musically that no hip hop artist is doing. And then the film came on TV, and he made a bet with his son. He's like, I defy you to show me any sort of artistic merits from this hip hop film. And when that scene where my character starts rapping the classical music comes on, he had to throw in the towel. He's like, oh my God, I've never seen any hip hop like this. So he emails me like immediately after he finds me online and is like, yo, I want to make an album with you. And so I was up for the challenge. And we ended up recording an album. It's called Jazz Hop Revolution. You can find it on all the platforms. But it's another super genre blending kind of project. Like, it's not hip hop. It's more jazz than hip hop, but it's more rap than spoken word. He composed these grooves that were in all weird time signatures. I'm glad I was a musician because I could be able to figure it out and match the rhymes to it. But it's a real interesting project if you're interested in that type of thing. Like, yeah, it was a real experiment.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a great experiment. One of the things that I know that artists of all sorts love to do is they love to serve as kind of the disruptors of society. I know there was a whole disrupt movement and everything. So how important do you think it is for artists to kind of like be advocates in terms of like trying to be disruptors and be the force of change, not just be the reporters of change, but also the force of change?
I forget who it was that said it, but revolution starts with the artists. That's something I've always believed. And you mentioned Gil Scott-Heron, right? Like artists, for whatever reason, when you prioritize doing something new in society that hasn't been done before through your creativity, you're going to be revolutionary. Like, art is revolutionary in its very nature because it's creating something that that comes from somewhere else. It comes from that human spirit. And anytime you can channel that and put it into a form, that is a revolutionary act against sort of what society wants to kind of put you in that box. So I definitely believe that the revolution gets spread through society through its artists, because we're the ones that are really challenging the status quo and pushing for something new and better and hopefully, more liberating for society.
No, I definitely agree with you on that. One of the things that I know people have been talking about is the fact that the society in general is moving toward more of a majority minority society, meaning that there are going to be more people of different kinds of ethnicities that will be kind of the rulers and things of that nature. There are some folks that feel that that's part of the reason that there's been such a support for that person that's about to leave 1600, and why there's some kind of been kind of this white male kind of like reverse kind of like rally cry to try to save themselves and things of that nature. I was just wondering, as one that is of mixed race and everything, what is your thoughts when you hear about the fact that we are about to be a majority minority society, whether that's meaning not all the minorities together will be the vast majority of what our population looks like and will be a true melting pot, which is what I thought we should have been from the beginning. But I was wondering your thoughts.
Man, I have so many thoughts on that, and I have to actually run and teach a class, but let me just leave it with this, because I think about this stuff so much. I just dropped a new album last year, at the end of last year, so it's on Spotify, it's on Apple Music, it's on my Bandcamp, which is just my name for those people that can see it. It's called The Book of Ra. I actually have a song called Melting Pot on that album that speaks directly to that. And, I'll just say that race has always been a construct from the beginning, and we were forced to accept it and brutally enforced to accept this idea of race and separateness. We're starting to realize that we have more in common than we have different across different cultures. So I hope that we're moving into a place where we can celebrate the cultural roots and foundations of the human experience, and learn from each other. And I think that white supremacy as a construct that forced itself upon all of us to have to adapt, it hurt everybody, in a different way. So I think we're starting to see that it's becoming more exposed and obvious to people, so that we can all kind of find the human family that we all are a part of.
Yep. And I know you got to bounce, so I appreciate you being on. I appreciate Aries for getting me in touch with you. Like I was telling Sarah, I definitely hope that I can get you back on and everything. As you're walking out the door and everything, I would love to have you give your final thoughts of positivity to our global community, and also any websites that you want to give people that they can reach you and that they can find you, or the best ways that they can reach you. But definitely any words of positivity that you would like to share with our global audience. I'd love to hear you say that, as I know you've got to get over there and teach those fine young minds and everything.
Yeah, I mean, we're the creators of our reality. You know what I'm saying? Like Sarah said, and all the answers are within us, but we got to find them within each other. So, continue to strive for the best possible future that you can even imagine, and because the truth is even greater than that. So yeah, dream big, dream high, and you can find the work that I do at rapforceacademy.com. If you're interested in getting involved in the global network that I'm a part of, hiphopcongress.com has more information on that. And I look forward to crossing paths with anybody that's feeling what we said.
Sounds good, and you were a great guest. I definitely appreciate you being on, learning a lot about you and everything. And like I said, definitely hoping to have you come back on in the near future. But definitely it was a great interview, and glad that folks got to learn more about what you've got going on and all of the amazing things that you're doing. Like I said, I know that Aries is directing me to a lot of great artists, and she's done an amazing job with that and everything. So if you want to give a shout out to the whole UBO family, I'll let you do that as well.
Oh, it's without question. UBO is Hip Hop Congress fam. She already know that, and now all y'all do too.
Yeah, appreciate you. So definitely appreciate you joining me, and have a good time with those students and everything. Hopefully they don't drive you too crazy, because I know that sometimes those students can drive us crazy when they want to.
Nah, it's good. They're good kids. All right.
Appreciate
Peace
you.
out, Mark.
All right. Peace. Let's see if I can get him off. All right. Yep. So that was Rahman, and he was definitely sharing a lot of his information and all of that. So trying to see if I can get him off there. There we go. So yes, that was Rahman Jamal, and he was sharing all kinds of great information and all of that. Also was glad to have Sarah Hill on the show as well. And like I said, you're definitely going to be continuing this great online dinner party. You're going to wrap up a little bit earlier than usual and all of that, but definitely it was some great interviews that we had. And I do apologize for the technical difficulties that we were having and all of that. But I did want to be sure that we got our amazing guests on. And I think we did a good job of having them enjoy their conversation and the things that they've got happening in their world. And like I said, we did have some definite guests that are going to be our mystery guests and all of that. So one of the mystery guests, like I said, the greatest escape I ever made was when I left Appleton, Wisconsin. And by the way, the other mystery guest is this particular person. It says the woman whom history would remember as Russia's longest running female leader was actually the eldest daughter of an impoverished Prussian prince. That's right. She was the eldest daughter of an impoverished Prussian prince. So that was a little bit about that mystery guest and all of that. Let me tell you a little bit more as well. The woman his history would remember as Russia's longest ruling female leader was actually the eldest daughter of an impoverished female prince. I actually said that and everything. Another one, she came to power in a bloodless coup that later turned deadly. That's right. She came to power in a bloodless coup that later turned deadly. And she definitely had to face down a number of things. She faced down more than a dozen uprisings during her reign. Of the various uprisings that threatened her rule, the most dangerous came in 1773. So we know that this is not a spring chicken in the sense of history and all of that, since what she was involved in was in 1773. So that's a little bit about that particular mystery guest, and we do have some other clues that I'll be revealing to you as well. So hopefully folks are thinking about who the mystery guest and are actually getting some ideas as to who this person may be. She was actually famously loyal to her lovers, both during their relationship and after it ended. Always partying on good terms, she bestowed upon them titles, land, palace, and even people. That's right, she gave them even people as well. And her reign was marked by vast territorial expansion, which greatly added to Russia's coffers, but did little to alleviate the suffering of her people. And contrary to popular belief, she actually died a fairly mundane, uneventful death. Don't believe the stories about the toilet or the horse. So, like I said, there have been some rumors about her involving a story of a toilet or a horse and all of that. And her eldest son met the same grisly fate as his father. So that's a little bit about our mystery guest and all of that. So he met the same grisly fate as his father and all of that. So that's just a little bit about our mystery guest. And in just a little bit, I'll be telling you the two mystery guests. I was thinking about having a third mystery guest, but I think I'll save that third one for next week and all of that. And I'll probably give you the pictures next week as well. As you know, I always give you a picture of the mystery guest, but I did not pull those up this time around. But I think that you will find that these are some amazing people and some amazing historical lessons that you may be thinking about as you're thinking about our mystery guests and all of that. So definitely keep that in mind, these amazing mystery guests that we have and everything along those lines. So definitely appreciate you learning about our mystery guests and what they are all about. So like I said, they are truly amazing mystery guests, and I think that you will definitely be thrilled when you find out who these people are and all of that. So I'm going to see if this other person wants to come and join our conversation as well. And if they do, then we'll have them on. But if not, then we're going to just kind of like probably wrap it up around 6 o'clock or something like that and move on with an abbreviated version of the online dinner party. And I do apologize for our little bit of technical difficulties and all of that, but definitely some great conversation with Sarah Hill of Helium, as well as Rahman Jamal, who is definitely a great musician out of the California area and all of that. So definitely just keep that in mind. Some great conversations that are taking place, and we were glad to have both of those amazing guests join us here today. And like I said, I'm actually outside again enjoying some of this fine weather. It was actually not too cold, even though it's a little bit chilly now and everything, but it wasn't too chilly earlier. It was actually kind of pleasant. And I think I might have to go give me some of this fine Korean food that is staring me in my face and all of that. So you don't see me disappear. That might be where I'm heading for and all of that. But definitely some great conversation going on. And as far as our mystery guest, the mystery guest this time around, and I do not know why folks were not guessing this. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves. I gave you a magician. I said it was a specialty act, and it was a magician. How many famous magicians are there? There are only a few famous magicians out there in the world, one of them being the legendary, and I did say legendary, Harry Houdini. Y'all could not guess Harry Houdini. I am very disappointed in y'all folks in not guessing Harry Houdini. And the other one that was involving the Russian politics and all of that, I would have thought that y'all would have got Catherine the Great. Catherine the Great, particularly when I gave you the clue about the horse. But definitely, I would have thought that you got Catherine the Great as well as Harry Houdini. Those were our mystery guests for this particular edition of the show and all of that. So I'm a little disappointed that y'all were not able to figure out who our mystery guests were, and we're not able to guess our mystery guests in that sense. So y'all let me down a little bit, not figuring out our mystery guests. I thought it was fairly obvious who they should have been and all of that. But I did want to bring up some of our great shows that happen here on this network. I think that y'all will thoroughly enjoy these great shows that happen on a regular basis, and we have some great shows that take place here on a regular basis. One of them I'll be joining tomorrow, that being the Gamers Den. So definitely check out the Gamers Den, and here's a little bit of the Gamers Den. Okay, maybe the Gamers Den doesn't want to.
My name's Brandon. I'm a world traveler, foodie, and YouTuber. Together, you and I will find the best travel hacks, tips, and best places to explore. Join me as we find new adventures together, live only on IBM.tv.
All right, folks, so that's a slightly abbreviated version of the online dinner party. Don't forget that on Monday we'll have the more, have some more amazing guests already lining some of them up for you and everything. And of course, we'll be following the news to see what's happening in the world of news, sports, entertainment, social justice, and a number of other things as well. So definitely do keep that in mind. Of course, we'll be there on Sunday with our roundtable and the funk music with Zach. So definitely those will be coming your way on Sunday. And of course, tomorrow we've got the game. Then I understand we got exciting guests. Tanya DePaz, who actually does a lot of work around trying to make sure that we have diversity in the gaming industry. So she'll be our guest. I've already sent her a link. I know that she's looking forward to a great conversation with us on that particular day. So looking forward to having Tanya DePaz as our guest on the Game Den, and that's between the hours of 1 and 3. And who knows who might show up at Podcasters Thursdays, because we oftentimes have some great podcasters and some amazing guests that come on at that show as well. So definitely some great shows coming your way right here on the International Broadcast Media. That's right. You can go to the website, and I'm really liking the new website, ibmtv.tv, ibmtv.tv, and check out the fantastic ways that the website is being developed. Brandon needs to be commended for what he's done on that regard. He's put together a wonderful website, and I have actually become a big fan of it, and it's even growing and being developed even further. So like I said, I saw the rollout is looking good, and I know that he's going to add some other perks and things of that nature. And by the way, don't forget to go to Brandon Scott's website, because you can actually find some goodies that are supporting my shows as well. That's right. You can go over there and check out some goodies that are supporting my show, as well as IBM TV, as well as a number of products he's got, including a new line. That's right. He's got a whole new line that he put out, I think, about a week or two ago. So he's got some amazing things that you might want to check out by going to his website and seeing about these amazing products that he's got and all of that. So keep that in mind and go over there and check it out. Right now, my stomach is telling me that it's time to get hungry and to go get some food. And it probably doesn't help that I'm outside near some restaurants. So I'm going to get ready to break and go check out some of these fine restaurants and everything, and maybe grab me a bite to eat and all of that. So we're going to call it an edition of the online dinner party. And I do apologize for any technical difficulties that happened and all of that, but I think you got some great conversations with some amazing guests. So keep that in mind, and we'll be back next week with more exciting guests and all of that. I'm definitely hoping to have Sarah Hill back, as well as Rahman Jamal. But I think that you learned a lot about their thoughts, what Helium is all about, and definitely what his music is all about in that regard. So definitely looking forward to having some more great conversations with these amazing individuals at a later date. So definitely keep that in mind. Right now, I'm going to let y'all check out what the radio show is all about, so y'all can see the logo that we use for that, and I'll bring up maybe the ambassador as well as, of course, the plane to get us on out of here. But definitely some great conversation. I look forward to some more great conversations later on. And like I said, don't forget that you got all kinds of great things happening on a regular basis here on this network. And of course, we've got all kinds of great folks that are doing things, including the ambassador. So let's see what the ambassador is talking about as she gets ready to get us on out of here.
और ऐसे अपने खास coolest thing about your job?
Engineers take the very best of science and technology. They solve problems.
Did you know all that stuff when you were my age?
All I knew is that I really liked math and I really liked science.
Put the keys down, Kevin.
But I'm gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
I guess I have really been looking for love in this dating app. Yep, I'm definitely gonna call a ride home.
When I was your age, I was just like you. When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.